that Baylor is now looking for a coach. Now, I would say that it is probably surprising to say where they are losing their coach to.
Yeah.
That Matt Rhule has reportedly, and this has now been pretty much confirmed by everybody, it would be a stunner if this was wrong at this point, but Matt Rhule is heading for Carolina. He will be the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers. From what I understand, he went after the Sugar Bowl. He went to Mexico for family vacation, as a lot of coaches do right after the season. They go on a family vacation. And he was met at the Waco airport by the owner of the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper. And he never let him go from there. And so he will be the head coach. Let me start with this. Okay.
Here we go.
I am not related to David Tepper, okay? We're all related. Me and Ashley and Ish are all related in the great human circle of life. He is not my uncle or cousin or anything like that. At least not that I know of. Although, Uncle David, I am willing to learn.
You should figure that out just in case.
I am willing to learn to be your relative because that dude at least has enough money to pay Matt Rhule. What's the contract?
6 years or 7
7
years,
years.
$60 million with incentives that push it to 70.
Right. So Matt Rhule, from what I understand, there are now kind of some reports that there are now kind of some reports that that it's not a huge increase. We don't know what Matt Rhule was making at Baylor.
Yeah, it's a private school.
Because it's a private school.
Yeah.
But we know he was making. There were reports that he was one of the highest paid coaches in the nation, at least in the Big 12, and so he is off to Carolina.
And I do know Schefter just tweeted out more recently that the Panthers paid Baylor $6 million of his buyout.
Yeah.
So that's an added boost to the Baylor coaching search for whoever they want to go. We can talk about that in a little bit, but that's something else that Carolina had to throw in. And apparently one of the things that swayed him was the Panthers are willing to invest in sports science, which is something that he's really been a pioneer at Baylor. And that was one of his things. He wants like a sports science department and like that whole nutrition and fitness and that whole dedication to that. And that was one of the things that kind of swayed him to take the Panthers job.
And so he leaves Baylor with the very odd and totally misleading 19-19 record.
Yeah.
That is if there is ever proof that you should look a little bit deeper than their overall record, Matt Rhule being 19-19 at Baylor is it. Obviously, the story of Matt Rhule, as it is going to be written at Baylor, is going to be that he took this program, which was as low as any program in the modern era has been, in the wake of the sexual assault scandal there, taking over for Jim Grobe, who was the interim coach after Art Briles was fired, and the first year going 1-11, and 2 years later going winning 11 games and going 11-3. That is pretty remarkable. That is something that you really just do not see very often. So it's understandable to say. Beyond that, I know that he was on an NFL staff with the Giants for a year, so he has NFL ties. From what we understand, there had always been kind of rumblings and rumors that he wanted to get into the NFL game. And so Matt Rhule is now leaving Baylor to go to Carolina. I understand that there are going to be some Baylor fans who are really bent out of shape about this, who are very upset with Matt Rhule. First and foremost, I don't think that Matt Rhule lied to anybody. When he was asked about interest from the NFL, he said he hasn't talked to anybody, which is probably true.
That's what agents are for.
Because that's why you have an agent, right? He hasn't, and I believe that he was fully focused on Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
I fully believe that. I don't know what incentive he would have to lie. I understand that it sucks when you lose your coach, right?
Yeah.
It does. It sucks. But I think in the end, this was an opportunity for him that he had wanted for a long time, and so he jumped at it. Good for him.
Yeah.
You can be disappointed and also say, you know what? I understand it. And I think that, in my opinion, I'm not going to tell Baylor fans how to feel, but that is, if I were a Baylor fan, I feel like that's how I would feel.
And I feel like there's the narrative that like, he told us to trust the process. Like every coach tells you to trust the process. Like there's always one job. that like there's always the job that will lure somebody away.
Well, yeah,
right?
and I was just going to say a big part of it too, I think, is what we were told is kind of it being that he wasn't going to leave unless it was the absolute perfect
He wasn't leaving for like I don't think he would leave for Texas. Like I really don't think he, I really don't think he would. Yeah.
What's the biggest open job right now in college football?
Oh God.
Ole Miss, right? Or Mississippi State.
Yeah. He's not
State.
leaving for that.
He wouldn't have he wouldn't have left for Mississippi State.
Right. Like people need to know that like people talk about, players having dreams of going to the NFL. Mm-hmm. Coaches have those same dreams. Oh, yeah. They have those same exact dreams. So like you can talk about what happened to loyalty, and it's like Barry Switzer left Oklahoma to go to the Cowboys. Yeah. Like it's like coaches have dreams of coaching the NFL. They have dreams of taking that next step. Mm-hmm. You can talk about loyalty, whatever. When that one job comes or that one opportunity comes, he turned down the Jets last year.
And it's and I don't understand. And this is, I don't know. I guess because we see them on TV and we spend every Saturday with them and they're famous, right? We think that different rules apply to coaches that don't apply to you and me. Right. If I know you like it here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
Don't leave us.
Please don't. But if a dream job came along for you that you were like, man, I've always dreamed of working for NASA, and NASA called you and said, hey, we want you to come and work for us, and you left, I'd be like, man, he's always wanted to work for NASA.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
No, I really don't.
Okay. All right.
Because Tepper would say, "Hey, NASA tweeted me that one time."
NASA did tweet me that one time. It was true. Let's all remember that. That's the most important part of the story. Anyway, point is that these are human beings with families, and if a good job opportunity comes along, it is, I think, silly for all of us to demand that kind, like some sort of over-the-top loyalty from anybody, let alone a football coach. So there's that. So Matt Rhule's out. Mm-hmm. Baylor will be on their fourth head coach in 6 years. Mm-hmm. That is kind of remarkable in and of itself, right? Art Briles, Jim Grobe, Matt Rhule, and now whoever they hire. So all eyes are going to turn to where Baylor goes from here. Look, there's going to be a name that you're going to hear a lot. And part of it is because everyone in the media in Texas loves him, including us. I am free to admit that I like Joey McGuire a lot. Joey McGuire is a great guy. Joey McGuire is always is a guy who is always very available to the media, and I think it's important to remember that access to the media access is something that is ultimately going to get you good press. Mm-hmm. So grain of salt with all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Baylor is now in the market for a head coach, and they have a guy in-house in Joey McGuire that, if you believe some of the tea leaves that we've read, is a leading candidate for this job. Mm-hmm. Joey McGuire, of course, is the former Cedar Hill head coach, wildly popular among Texas high school football coaches, wildly popular just among the media, as I mentioned. There's a lot, and you're seeing Baylor players tweet out support for Joey McGuire. From what we understand, the Baylor players love Joey McGuire. Mm-hmm. So he would be a guy who would be in the mix, and I think he's going to get a long look at it from Mac Rhodes. That is not without risks. Joey McGuire has never been a coordinator at the college level. He has been a position coach and an assistant head coach. He's also only been in the college game for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Okay? 4 years ago, he was coaching Cedar Hill High School. Okay? This is not without risk. And there's no guarantee. But if you are a believer that Baylor's got a good thing going and you want to promote from within, he would be, I think, an obvious internal candidate.
Yeah, I think that Shahan mentioned Jeff Nixon as well. I think that's the other internal candidate you're kind of looking at as far as like if they want to keep it in-house, if they want to keep this thing rolling. Because you mentioned 4 head coaches in 6 years. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of turnover. Mm-hmm. Does Baylor want to go through something else of hiring, I don't know who, Sonny Dykes. I'm just throwing it in. Don't worry, SMU. I don't think he's leaving. But if they wanted to hire Sonny Dykes, right, do they want to go through that, go through a whole new recruiting change, as a change in philosophy and do all that? Or do they want to just keep this thing rolling, knowing that they have this window, however long this window, I'm going to say a hot take here, Baylor's not a historically great program. This is a window. This is a window of opportunity that they have to contend for a national title, potentially get into a playoff. The next 2 to 3 years are very crucial. Do they want to just keep that rolling with somebody, or again, do they want to switch it up again? Do they want to risk dropping that momentum that they've gotten in recruiting and on the field production for somebody out of the box or out of the program right now? Who knows?
If you're talking about other kind of candidates that are going to spring to mind, Blake Anderson is going to be a name you hear a lot. Blake Anderson is the Arkansas State head coach. Mm-hmm. Done a pretty good job there, 47-30 there in I guess, how many is that, 5 seasons, 6 seasons? There at 5. There he is a guy who has ties to Baylor. He was, of course, a quarterback at Baylor under Grant Taff. That is a name you're going to hear a lot. I do think that Sonny Dykes is going to get a phone call. I'll say that.
Probably.
I think he's probably going to get a phone call, depending on how wide they want this search to be. That I think that Sonny Dykes is going to be in that mix. Shahan has a piece up at textfootball.com as far as candidates are concerned. A couple other guys he mentions. Willie Fritz from Tulane.
Man, talk about switching it up.
That would be switching it up for sure. I love Willie Fritz. I think Willie Fritz is awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of surprised he's still at Tulane. That would not be a bad choice. Billy Napier is another guy from Louisiana Lafayette, or Louisiana, I think is what they want to be called now.
They're Lafayette.
Yeah, he was an offensive coordinator for Clemson. Mm-hmm. He's got ties to Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban. He seems to, from what we understand, he's already turned down Mississippi State. Would he stay closer to Louisiana? Who knows? But that's a name to keep an eye on. He lists Shahan lists as his pipe dream Matt Campbell from Iowa State. That
is
make him say no, I guess. if that's a guy that you want to target. But again, I think a lot of this conversation is going to be determined by how wide a scope Matt Rhodes wants to have.
I mean, put it this way: he hired Matt Rhule in the first place.
Yes,
that was a wide scope.
Yes,
right.
Like he was
that's
not
a wide scope.
Anybody's radar.
Yeah.
So does he go for that again?
Yeah.
So
he might. If he wants to have a true nationwide search, then there's a lot of teams or a lot of things on the table. Because look, I think Baylor's a pretty attractive job. It's a Power 5 job.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've been on the upswing. They have a history of success recently. That history, they have a new stadium, new facilities. The facilities are the investment has been made. I think that Baylor's an attractive job that I think that they are going to have. They're not got their pick of everybody, but they're going to be able to get some attractive candidates interested in this job. So is it a narrow scope where they say we're going to keep it in-house and we're going to decide between somebody we have in-house? Or is it a wide scope where you're going to say, we're going to open this thing up, we're going to call over the place, we're going to get a wide range? You mentioned Matt Rhodes and his other hire. He hired Matt Rhule. That would be a wide range. Mm-hmm. If it's more narrow, then you lean towards a guy like Joey McGuire or a guy like Jeff Nixon. I would think that McGuire would be the guy if they were to go internal. If they were to hire Joey McGuire, we can certainly talk about that, but he is, as I mentioned, very well respected in Texas high school football circles. Look, it's going to be interesting. I understand if Baylor fans are are disappointed, but don't be angry at a guy for getting a job that he was excited about and wants to move on. And more importantly, what he was able to help to basically dig Baylor out of the ditch. Mm-hmm. And get them toward the top of the Big 12.
He's put them on a platter now. I was like, hey, cool. This is hand this off to someone else now.
Yes. I don't think it is reasonable to be angry with Matt Rhule. That's all I'm saying.
No.
Meese commented.
I
think he was joking, but he goes, this was before he even started talking about who else could fill in. Jason Garrett to Baylor? ?
Look, he's looking for a job. I'm just saying.
He is unemployed currently. So.
Yeah. He's unemployed currently.
Actually, the Giants are apparently talking to him for offensive coordinator.
I will just say this.
That's the thing.
So Matt Rhule takes a job that's worth about $9 million a year. Let's call it
roughly.
About, yeah.
Matt Rhodes. Can I speak in the camera one?
Yes. There we go.
Hi, Matt Rhodes. Greg Tepper. I will be the head coach at Baylor for half of what Matt Rhule is making with the Panthers. I will accept that. Give me a call.